Dear Kate Brown and every other governor in the United States of America, and to Biden and Trump. Dear Kate Brown, my redheaded, fair-skinned mother grew up in Meridian, Idaho. The winters were very cold. She described their farm as not very well kept and very drafty. I remember my grandma Evelyn saying that one winter, mice came in to get warm, and they covered the floor like a sea. My mother told me a story about a bucket of frozen frogs that had been brought in, and during the night, they must have thawed out by the wood stove, and frogs were hopping all over, and they were so excited. My grandma used to take all of her grandchildren when they turned 8 to a restaurant in Portland, Oregon for frog legs. I broke the tradition. I refused. I like frogs too much. And I loved animals. I wanted to be a veterinarian, but I did get a degree, but it was a BA in business with an emphasis on adolescence to womanhood, literature courses, like the book Dolores Claiborne, The Scarlet Letter come to mind. Also a minor in childhood education, because I loved kids. I just like blood and always get squeamish in science dissecting frogs. I had a terrible dream one night that I was at the Paul Bunyan Park by the Redwood Forest in this beautiful little oasis, a soft patch of grass that was beside a pond. It looked like a fairyland. In my dream, I was lounging on the grass and I reached in the water, grabbed a frog and took a bite out of a live frog's back. I woke up with a terrible taste in my mouth and a searing pain in my soul, my heart. I was so sickened that I would do something so brutal to a frog. It was a dream, but it still affected me. I told my grandma Evelyn about the dream. I'm not sure what she said exactly, but she might have thought it was a witch scaring me. I realized later that it was because I would in the future be the one to address a very sensitive topic about abortion. When my mom was a little girl, she was teased at school for her red hair. Some girls shoved leaves in her eyes trying to blind her. They would sing, "Red, red, you wet the bed." Even their chickens on the farm would attack my mom, and my grandma said they didn't like her because of her red hair. My mom's sister was not very nice to her, and her friends would exclude her. My grandfather was not very nice. He favored my mom because she was cute with red hair, but was mean to her sister, so my aunt would take it out on her. One time my mom fell headfirst into a little creek on their farm. Her head was stuck in the mud. She opened her eyes long enough to see a frog get swallowed by a snake. Aunt Connie, my mom's sister, grabbed her by the ankles and rescued her out of the mud. My grandma Evelyn had only 2 children. She said she knew to use birth control and never had an unplanned pregnancy. When I was in college in Nampa, Idaho, at Northwest Nazarene College, I refused to have sex till I was married, but I did like to cuddle with clothes on, and I recall sneaking my boyfriend into the girls' dorm, and we got caught, and he had to pay a $50 fine. We freaked out. I think I was mostly afraid my parents would find out, but needless to say, no more sneaking into dorm rooms because money talks. Now pertaining to abortion, which is not a victimless transaction, a fine for not being a self-manager and not using 2 forms of birth control, which is the new normal since 2020. Everyone, both male and female, needs to carry condoms and previously consult a doctor on forms of birth control and have them in place. A fine would be a deterrent and not such a bad idea. If my grandma, originally from Oklahoma and rode on a wagon, if she, as a married woman on a remote farm in Idaho, knew how to conduct her life in such a way as to never have an unplanned pregnancy, and now with all the different forms of birth control we can get our hands on, then each can self-advocate and insist on condoms to be used. Now to address the rape culture. All dorm room walls all over the U.S. and bars, the back of bars. Now to address the rape culture. All dorm room walls all over the U.S. need a sign that says, drugged, drunk, or underage cannot consent, it's rape. Sex trafficking is so rampant on dating sites. Choreographed rape. Someone will think they were there to meet someone, but they have been set up by bystanders in on it that they thought was someone in the background. They served them up to a crowd full, drug them up. There needs to be more control of the internet. Even porn sites, even with signatures to film, they are being exploited and raped. Not to mention when people start seeing people as objects for gratifications instead of someone's son or daughter, it's a downward slope. And kids are seeing porn. It's just happening. And kids are too young to be exploited to this. They will start acting out and trying it on their friends. I heard Nebraska put a block on porn. My main concern is for the babies facing the salines, scalpels, and hemostats without anyone to stand up for the in uteros. Think of it this way. Me knowing that my grandbaby was on the way saved my life. Grandparents need their grandchildren and their zeal for life. Nothing compares to the love I have for my grandparents and my parents. Sometimes an unplanned pregnancy saves lives. Never underestimate the joy a child can bring in your life.